people are talking about agentic AI, but very few are really using it. They think that it hallucinates you quickly and makes wrong decisions.
But you actually start from the people first, and you empower them to be as destructive as the main battle tank, but they're much more dispersed and the intelligence is everywhere. So when I describe it, I'm describing drone warfare.
Because you had what I call the double multiplier over here. You got AI, machine, and human. You're using all your assets and saying, I'm going to trust each one of them, and then make a calculated decision.
There's a lot of shadow AI going around.
Sure.
And if we know, understand, and see it, why do we suppose that people in geopolitics, people in government are not doing so?
Welcome to OpenGov Unplugged. This is part 2 of a 2-series episode. In episode 1, we explored how enterprises are building intelligence. Now we take that one step further. How does the intelligence actually translate into better investment decisions? Okay, because in the end, intelligence is only valuable if it creates outcomes. I, Philip Chu, MD for Keppel, would be once again. Welcome back, Philip, to the show.
No, thank you, Mohit.
Okay, so let's take this one step deeper. Everyone talks about alpha, but in today's environment, what actually creates alpha, Philip?
Well, now you're talking about the story of my life, professional life at least for 30 plus years. It's really all about knowing better than the average around you and being able to go faster to carry out the natural and proper decisions based on what you believe you have an edge on. It is not a simple thing to do because there's a psychological component to this. There's an intellectual component to this. There is also a organizational component to it, which is why alpha shops across the world, they come in all sorts of different shapes and form factors, from state-of-the-art hedge funds that are superpowered to the gills with state-of-the-art technology,
Right.
To fundamental thinkers, like if you look over in Berkshire Hathaway, even as they pass generationally from one generation to the next, they do not need computers in what they do, but ultimately they all drive to the same thing. How can you view the world in a way that is truer in form than what the average sees? That's what alpha is.
Yeah, true that, because is alpha still about the insight, trying to create the experience? Or are we now talking about speed, scale, processing power? Do different organizations strive that differently or measure it differently?
I think it really depends on which school of alpha you come from. The way I have been schooled in this has been shaped tremendously by where I have spent a lot of my time academically and where I started my professional career. So between applied mathematics, physics, electrical engineering, and finance, those are my academic roots. And the starting point, which was a quantitatively focused, risk management focused,
Right.
first of its kind, technology-powered buy-side asset management company,
Right.
which was what the startup of BlackRock was.
Correct.
About.
Correct.
And so meshing that with my predilections to thinking about things mathematically, thinking about things actually very probabilistically as a physicist, and then marrying that over to the rigor of creating engineered processes together, it colors what I think about alpha. So from that point of view, alpha to me is how do you create, I'll take what we talked about in part 1.
Right.
How do you create a thinking machine, a thinking engine that will realistically and reliably produce alpha for you because your thinking machine is better than other people's?
Yeah, so let's that's interesting you say that, because if I look at the traditional investment funds, right, and the blocks, compare that to where we are today. What's the fundamental change of it transforming, to how we can think and deploy that?
Compared to state-of-the-art in generating alpha, most asset management outfits, whether they are, qualitatively focused, long-only equity funds, or they are private equity looking at a particular technology sector, they all look like cottage industries compared to the state-of-the-art.
Right.
And what defines cottage industry? Right? It's a cottage industry because what I'm really saying is they're not scalable.
Correct.
They do find alpha, but they find alpha one at a time, so to speak, or two at a time. And what I'm talking about is they could do a lot better if they go through a transformation in how they, in a cottage fashion, figure out the ways of planting the right seed and putting the right fertilizer at the right timing and getting irrigation in reliably, or even if it's not reliably, you bring buckets in every day.
Correct.
How do you transform all of that into a factory process?
Right.
And that I think that's where the opportunity is for alpha generators out there.
Right.
And I think it also plays along with another trend that's been very clear in the last 20 years in the asset management industry, which is big companies get bigger. Small companies hopefully grow up fast enough
Right.
to be a big company, or are of the right size that the big companies eat them up.
Yeah.
And there are very few in between that survive any in the longer term. And so one of the things that we all understand, the reason is, number one, because investors like proven names. And so going with the big shop, they are not going to get fired for choosing them.
Correct.
Right? That's one. But also there's another question about scale. The bigger shops have figured out how to scale industrially their process. And at this point in time for asset management companies, for the most part, their core engineering that they create their factory process out of was stamped in the 1990s.
Right. And how high your inefficiency that leaves.
There are, like to me, I was an architect back in the 1990s that built one of these big systems, Aladdin, which right now should be running more than $45 trillion at least a day. I'm guilty of creating a lot of inefficiencies because that was a state of the art back in the 90s.
Correct.
Right? People, it's, I'm going to reveal something about myself. I like military stuff.
Okay.
I pretend to know something about it. And to me, the picture that came to my mind is, in the same way that you take a main battle tank into battle, the main battle tank is actually very vulnerable to attacks by people.
Correct.
And so you need infantry with you to be able to really secure your fantastic main battle tank. So in the same way, I look at my systems and that were built in the 90s and those of similar heritage,
Right.
need a lot of infantry along. So the difference right now is there's an opportunity where you don't create the main battle tank, but you actually start from the people first.
Right.
And you empower them to be as destructive as the main battle tank, but they're much more dispersed and the intelligence is everywhere. So when I describe it, I'm describing drone warfare.
Correct. And distributorship, basically. Yeah. You spread it so far, so wide, that if you keep one or two out, it doesn't make a difference in the large scheme of things. Is that where you see businesses go right about now? You think we're heading that way? Or is that more of a military analogy, which makes sense because that's exactly what we're seeing, unfortunately, in today's.
Yeah. So I think that there is a form of enterprise intelligence that will feel and look like distributed intelligence in drone warfare. There's certain use cases that you will have, like for instance, part and parcel of generating alpha is you just have to sense everything that is available to you. And I always emphasize that when we sense publicly and open information, we are sensing legally available information. I will not venture into illegals because that's not the business that I'm in. But in terms of legally available, publicly available information out there, if you don't treat that as an opportunity, and you don't treat that as a problem ripe for using your equivalent of drones out there to discover what's out there, then you are derelict in your thinking about the 21st century version of an alpha generator. If you're not doing that, then you're not really an alpha generator anymore.
Interesting. So you think about this AI at the top of the funnel, right? This is where we're going. Okay, this is where you applied AI right at the top of your funnel. What were you trying to solve? What was the thought process behind that?
Yeah. The thought process is actually simple. We had a rallying cry internally on, because we have technology, that one we know for sure. Because we know we have cloud technology, or that one we know for sure. We also know that we can hang LLMs all out onto agentic systems that will go out there and discover the world for us. So if you take all those together, the rally cry for ourselves is, what would Jeff Bezos do if he actually owned an alpha generating company? Well, he would do exactly what we did.
Correct.
Right? We would say, with all humility, we don't believe that alpha only resides in places where we stick our heads into.
True.
Right? That's what cottage industry people say.
Correct.
Right? For you to expand my business, I need to hire people who can rainmake for me. Yeah. Why? Because they have all the social connections and all the different ways in which they can discover opportunities that I can't get to. And so I need to have another farmer with me. So the difference is, let's go about it industrially. Let's just depend on the idea that we all live in right now, which is each one of us, whether we're an individual, a family, or a business, struggle to keep our information off the internet.
Yeah.
And if we struggle to do so, then companies of interest to us are actually out there in the open, and we are just not looking for them. And so what do? We actually did the Jeff Bezos thing.
Yeah.
We go out there and we constructed swarms of intelligences that go out there and mine for information. Mind you, it is low signal to noise ratio. Correct, sure.
Yep.
But it's so cheap for us to do so that it's just a mining operation.
No, fair play. So that's how AI has changed to where you scan, filter, prioritize opportunities, right? That's what it comes down to. So that this means this actually widens your funnel.
Correct.
Right? And when you do that, how do you make sure which is the force multiplier over there? How do you know which one to go after? Or, alluding to our original script, you say, I can put so many small things out there that the win ratio becomes more. Is that how you got to think it?
I think in that way, where you really do need to experiment more, right? If the cost of trying out new possibilities is low enough, you should be getting more hits at the bat. You need to go out there in the field more. So we'll win by just having more volume. That's one. But also the other thing is, let's not forget that this is not an autonomous company. We still are humans in the loop. And actually the job of the human, the people that we have, has actually been upgraded.
Okay.
You literally need to be an orchestrator of intelligences around you.
Right.
And you literally have to actually, now I think about it, be a little bit more like a professor who is running a research program.
Right.
Right. Everyone, just like I said in the last episode, people are going to have to learn to be a little bit more geek.
Correct.
I think for executives of the future, they'll have to be more like professors. And why do I say that? I say that because you have to orchestrate experiments and you have to orchestrate, instead of grad students, AI, to prosecute these ideas reasonably so that you still get reasonable returns on your time that you put in there. You cannot just say, well, it'll be almost as if a research professor said to a senior grad student, well, I'll just nominate you to take my part, and I'm going to go off to Italy for vacation for a year. I'll come back and see you another.
Correct. But the big difference is those grad professors who were doing research with there, were real students, had a time. It would take them a lot longer. That's right. AI accelerates the entire process. So, I mean, it puts everything on steroids, right? Hence, you can get the outcome a lot faster. Is that where you guys are heading to? And is that what you guys are doing? Think about how that shift is taking place.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that is often lost. How do you train the next generation? I think the current generation, they are getting tremendous ability to multiply their benefit to the whole company. If you're good, you'll be even better with the swarms of AI that's around you. The challenge is actually when you're young and you're coming in for the first time. Those senior people had gone through 2 decades of reinforcement learning, basically,
Correct.
to get to where they got to. So how do the young folks now facing AI that have beautiful context that actually operate 10, 15 years ahead of them? What is the role of the junior at this point?
Yeah.
Right. So actually, maybe my analogy of a professor and grad students is very appropriate.
Yeah.
Because you have basically some grad students that are starting at let me just use a simple measure, 150 IQ level performance. And then you have the normal people who are coming in. But the difference is that the normal people coming in, they are starting from a lower base. However, we still believe that the wisdom that can be created in these individuals can actually be still higher than our best digital student that we have right now. So that is still the assumption.
The EQs come right. Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you emphasize both IQ, EQ, and also I would imagine that there's another thing. I don't know what to call it, but it's more like the computer science quotient that you need.
The X factor.
The X factor right there is really, really important to be discovered.
Yeah.
I'm sure in retrospect, 10 years from now, we'll be able to explain it. And some professors would have quantified and we will know what we're talking about. But at this point in time, as a pioneer, I know that there is a missing gap that's there. And so it is up to the senior people to create the conditions for junior people to come in and not spoil them. Right? Junior people coming in with all of these 150 IQ, very, very good professionals that will listen to them do whatever they want. One thing these young people could do is they could free ride.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you're in an examination, you're given the answer key, and you're using the answer key to your own detriment.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So therefore, the governance of the young people's usage of the tools is really important.
It is. And I like, you using the analogy of the research paper. You got the professor on top, you got the grad students. Okay, now you got professor on top of the AI coming into play, right? Let's take that one step further. I'm also going to say, hey, let's use AI to make that decision. So the professor gets not obsolete, that's the wrong word to be used, but gets challenged, okay, because you got speed at your side. Is that the movement and the direction? And is that what people should be considering? So hence, with the word agentic AI, which you use, people are talking about agentic AI, but very few are really using it. Okay, they think that it hallucinates you quickly and makes wrong decisions. That's based on parameters. It's based on how it's been set up, right? What's your take on the actual deployment of AI and agentic AI in this scenario?
I think very practically about it. As we bring AI agents into play in communities of AI and people to prosecute something that is very useful for the company, just like when you bring a new person into the company, the new person has to go through a trust journey of others trusting them and him trusting the company, but also in terms of others giving this person more privilege and more consequential things to decide on. And so in many ways, my answer to you is that the AI will have to earn its way into that position.
Interesting.
And once it's earned its way into that position where it is equivalent to a seasoned professor, then, okay, what happens? What happens then is that our current crop of Hewlett professors will have digital professors also.
Correct. No, fair play.
No difference.
So do you see AI challenging that professor?
Yes.
You do, right?
It'll be peers at that.
I think so too. Not Indians. Yes. The question then is the cultural shift. Are we ready for that? Right.
Yeah.
But let's bring that into the investment space. Is AI ready to now challenge not status quo investment?
Not yet.
Right. Tell me why.
I don't think it's a technological issue right now. The technology will get better.
Right.
The IQ will get better. Right. It'll start to taper off, but it'll continue to get better.
Okay.
The real stumbling block in doing so is the trust journey that the community has to trust the AI to be able to make those calls.
Correct.
Right. And for the AI to demonstrate with data that it would have made the right choices, or more hit ratios of making the right choices versus the wrong, versus a seasoned person that is going through a bad journey.
Fair play. Let me challenge that a little bit. I'm reading a lot of the stuff that I'm going to call them analysts and fanatics. We're always talking about the technology roadmap. And I'm seeing them use the same models that they've used their entire lives. They're not really using the new models. They're not looking at new trends. And we are sitting in a very different world than we were even in 2008. The transformation has been just magnitude, right? So if you have the same people using the same formulas looking at the Africa tomorrow, they'll come to the same conclusion. What I'm saying, you're going to get pushed. Okay, you got to look at technology, and you're right. It has to earn its way, but then we got to let it burn. We got to let it, give that chance. We're not giving you that chance. That's culture bullying back. As what the technology says, I'm ready. And some people like you, for example, in my humble opinion, you're pushing the envelope. So you are giving it that trust. You create that pathway for it to win and hence become a major player on the table.
Yeah. So you're pointing out the I don't want to say dirty, but I think the hard truth of what we're doing. The hard truth of what we're doing is we are creating the force of change to the rest of the asset management business.
Correct.
Good luck to you if you're competing against us today. Good luck to you if you're competing against us in 5 years. You may not be there. So the traditionalists will be in a Darwinian fashion be meted.
Absolutely. Because you have what I call the double multiplier over here. You got AI, machine, and human. So you're using all your assets and saying, I'm going to trust each one of them and then make a calculated decision, as opposed to, let traditional decisions still take the upper tier. And we've seen that in a lot of businesses still. A lot.
Yeah.
And that's where I see them fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think that at this point, it is easy to overestimate how long it'll take to disrupt these companies.
Yep.
It's very easy to think that it's going to be another 10, 20 years before it even happens. But I think what, for instance, a GFC 2008 has taught us, and even if you just look at the emergence of ChatGPT 3 years ago, what that is telling us is the ground is not as unshakable as we think it is.
Absolutely.
Because if you think about it, asset management business is one of the most merit-driven, data-driven industry.
Correct.
Right? If you're clearly better in alpha, clearly, why would anyone come to you when you are not providing that kind of returns?
Absolutely.
So it's just about building up the track record. And so if I have an AI first track record that is about 7 years long,
right,
then I am clearly going to be listened to.
Right.
And if you're a capital allocator, you would be derelict if you don't consider and move money over to me.
Exactly. So that's a skill set they need now to stay relevant, because that's where they head, right? And you're right. So is it fair to say the differentiator between the two would be exactly that, the one who's using tech at its highest capability and ability versus the one who's still in the traditional methods and saying, "How read the books"?
I think that is spot on.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the truths that's out there. It's even more right now. Because when I started a journey in Keppel 2.5 years ago, that was a strong belief on my side that if I could engender technology natively from the inside out, call it AI, don't call it AI, whatever you want to call it, then it has to be that I'm making the franchise much more valuable. And if I do so ahead of others in asset management, it means that you win.
You do. I'm with you. So is it fair to conclude in this that firms that are going to be using AI will be the only ones staying relevant, and the ones who do not will become obsolete?
It's like saying from, say, 100 years ago, companies that used electricity versus not using electricity. There are still some companies, I guess, in more physical experience companies,
Right.
They don't need electricity to run, but the rest of us need it. So intelligence. So once again, this is one of the truths that sounded like a soundbite. Yeah, that intelligence is the next electricity. So when you first heard that, I think I first heard that from some deck from McKinsey 2 years ago.
Right.
It felt like, is that overhyping or is that not? Right. In this particular case, it has become even more real.
Yeah.
So for sure, I would park that under the truth rather than the foolishness.
Right. What's interesting, and you use an analogy about the military or defense. I'm going to go back to that for a second, because we're still seeing in this day and age the maneuvers being done globally without using real intelligence, using what I call a hunch, thinking to overcome, not realizing the power of the other side. Had they used what I called real AI to determine the consequences of the actions, I think that'd be quite different. You agree?
I want to agree, but I think there is a subtle point that I think we should all recognize and call out. There's a lot of shadow AI going around.
Sure.
And if we know, understand, and see it, why do we suppose that people in geopolitics, people in government are not doing so? So I think that there's an element where even the decision making and the ways conflicts are being fought right now There's some things that are super overt, right? What's overt is, for instance, Western powers are Palantir powered and therefore Claude powered. So in a lot of ways, this is Claude versus the opponent on the other side, right? And you can literally use that and look, I have no foreknowledge of anything. I'm just a observer that understands a few things. I can see that this is an emergence of Claude as an intelligence, as a force in the battlefield, right? And the ability for the Western powers to, in effect, flatten conventional military on the Iranian side so quickly, right, is a testament to Claude's ability to perceive that battlefield. And what I do know also reading the press is they're not using the latest Claude Opus 4.6. They're at Claude 3.5. It may even just be a sonnet, you know, and so it tells you something, right? That in that world, a lot of decisions right now, just like when I walk around and I visit other companies, very few people will admit that ChatGPT is their constant companion, right? But if you really sit down with them privately, you're like, oh, you're using ChatGPT to help you think.
Correct.
Right. So LLMs, frontier LLMs are already helping us think. Whether people give them credit or not is another matter.
Fair play. Hence acknowledgement. Remember,
Yeah.
I will take credit even though somebody uses them.
Correct. So to the human, is like, I have a slave who does that for me. Why should I give credit to this slave?
Sure.
Yeah. I would have thought about that even if you weren't there. It's just that you got it to be faster.
Yes, that's what we live under, right? The whole myth about that. Okay, so last one. Let's talk about what you see in the next 18 months in the alpha investment model for asset management.
Asset management is
The reason I'm asking that question, that's where you're heading. You are going to become one of the largest asset management companies, I think, at an aggregate, right? That's your vision.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to amplify the vision. Okay, show me what Philip sees in the next 18 months or 24 months.
So I answered an equivalent version in part one when it comes to the tech side. So I'm going to answer in terms of the asset management side. I think we'll do private equity differently
Okay.
in 18 and 24 months.
Explain.
Because if you have the intelligence engine that works for you, one of the key things about being private equity is you want to buy the company, make it better.
Correct.
If you already have the gift of the intelligence engine, why don't you just give the intelligence engine to the portfolio company?
And blow it up. Yeah. And if it's dominant, blow it up anyway.
If it's super dominant, because in any sector, if you're AI powered versus not AI powered, you're going to be the most winningest company in that sector.
True that.
And so I think private equity will evolve a lot more into collecting as many of these startup companies, and as a result, because if you have confidence that you can make them super valuable,
Right.
you want to go into the discount bin rather than just going for quality and pick up at low price and then empower with technology and the thinking engine that's in there. And then you bring an AI first management on top of it. This is a playbook that is already being talked about outside.
Okay.
So when you have partnerships between private equity companies like Blackstone and big leading frontier model companies like OpenAI and Anthropic,
Correct.
they are already practicing that, at least in the press. So I think that's going to be a trend. At this point, it is very limited. It'll be very few who are able to do so. I think for us in Keppel, if I could dream for Keppel, 18 to 24 months, we will take that on as a new skill set for us, how we do asset management.
No, spot on. So thank you for breaking it down, Phil. That makes a lot of sense. We're talking about not just better tools, but better way of doing things and empowering each other. And going back to the first chapter, democratizing data as much as humanly possible so people can use it. Thank you for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's my pleasure, Mohit. Anytime.
Thank you, Phil.